Hi all, welcome back. In this video, we are going to study a new lesson named The Book of Nature by Jawaharlal Nehru. The lesson that we are going to study is a letter by Jawaharlal Nehru addressed to his daughter, taken from the Letters from a Father to His Daughter. Letters from a Father to His Daughter is a collection of letters written by Jawaharlal Nehru to his 12-year-old daughter Indira in the summer of 1928. At that time, Nehru was in Allahabad and Indira was in Missouri. Nehru used to write letters from time to time to Indira. The Book of Nature is one of those letters. Let's read what did Nehru write in this letter. The Book of Nature. When you and I are together, you often ask me questions about many things and I try to answer them. Now that you are at Missouri and I am in Allahabad, we cannot have these talks. I am therefore going to write to you from time to time short accounts of the story of our earth. I am afraid I can only tell you very little in these letters of mine. But that little, I hope, will interest you and make you think of the world as a whole, and of other people in it as our brothers and sisters. When you grow up, you will read about the story of the earth and her peoples in fat books. You will find it more interesting than any other story or novel that you may have read. You read history in books. But in all times, when men did not exist, surely no books could have been written. How often can we find out what happened? We cannot nearly sit down and imagine everything. This would be very interesting, for we could imagine anything we wanted to and would thus make up the most beautiful fairy tales. But this need not be true, as it would not be based on any facts that we had seen. But although we have no books written in those far off days, fortunately we have some things which tell us a great deal as well, almost as a book would. We have rocks and mountains and seas and stars and rivers and deserts and fossils of all the animals. These and other like things are our books for the earth's early story. And the real way to understand this story is not merely to read about it in other people's books, but to go to the great book of nature itself. You will, I hope, soon begin to learn how to read this story from the rocks and mountains. Imagine how fascinating it is. Every little stone that you see lying on the road or on the mountainside may be a little page in nature's book and may be able to tell you something if you only knew how to read it. To be able to read any language, Hindi, Urdu, or English, you have to learn its alphabet. So, also you must learn the alphabet of nature before you can read her story in her books of stone and rock. Even now, perhaps you know a little how to read this. If you see a little round shiny pebble, does it not tell you something? How did it get round and smooth and shiny without any corners off or rough edges? If you break a big rock into small bits, each bit is rough and has corners and rough edges. It is not at all like a round, smooth pebble. How then did the pebble become so round and smooth and shiny? It will tell you its story if you have good eyes to see and ears to hear it. It tells you that once upon a time, it may be long ago, it was a bit of rock, just like the bit you may break from a big rock or stone with a plenty of edges and corners. Probably it rested on some mountainside. Then came the rain and washed it down to the little valley where it found a mountain stream, which pushed it on till it reached a little river. And the little river took it to the big river. And all the while it rolled at the bottom of the river and its edges were worn away. Thus the rough surface was made smooth and shiny. So it became the pebble that you see. Somehow the river left it behind and you found it. If the river had carried it on, it would have become smaller and smaller, till at last it became a grain of sand and joined its brothers at the seaside to make a beautiful beach, where little children can play and make castles out of the sand. If a little pebble can tell you so much, how much more could we learn from all the rocks and mountains and the many other things we see around us? Have you finished reading? What do you understand? Okay, let's discuss what did Nehru share through this letter. I'm going to ask you a few questions and you should try to answer those questions correctly. And that will help you to comprehend the passage very easily. Are you ready to answer my questions? Here is the first question. What is the author trying to tell his daughter? What is the author? That means Nehru trying to tell his daughter. Yes. The author is trying to tell his daughter about short accounts of the story of the earth. And here comes the second question. Nehru says that he cannot have talks with his daughter. Why? He cannot have talks with his daughter. Why? Yes. Nehru is in Allahabad and his daughter is in Muzaffar. Therefore, they cannot have talks with each other. Third question. Why did Nehru say that Indira would read about the earth in fat books? Why did Nehru say that Indira would read about the earth in fat books? Yes. When grows up, Indira would read about the earth from geography textbooks. Moreover, she would know more about the earth from reference books like encyclopedia. And the fourth question. What does Nehru mean by reading the book of nature? What does Nehru mean by reading the book of nature? Yes. By reading the book of nature, Nehru means observing and trying to find out the secret behind every object of the nature. Here comes the fifth question. Pick out the sentences that show Nehru's love for nature. Yes. When you grow up, you'll read about the story of the earth and her people in fat books. You'll find it more interesting than any other story or novel that you may have read. If a little pebble can tell you so much, more could we learn from all the rocks and mountains and the many other things we see around us. Are the sentences that show Nehru's love for nature. Then, question number 6. What are the pages and alphabets of nature according to Nehru? What are the pages and alphabets of nature according to Nehru? Yeah. Little stones lying on the road or on the mountain side are the pages and alphabets of nature. Then, here comes the last question. What does Nehru mean by good eyes to see and ears to hear? What does Nehru mean by good eyes to see and ears to hear? Yeah. Keen observation power and the ability and interest to hear every sound of nature. That is what Nehru means by good eyes to see and ears to hear. Have you answered all the questions correctly? Do you understand what Nehru shared through the letter? Yes. It envisages the world as one home and all the objects of nature as members of one family. That is what Nehru shares through this letter. I'll be back with another video lesson. Until then, bye.